And tonight we are talking about roads all across the country. The government tell us that they are expending a lot of money to ensure that your roads are motorable, but also building new ones to facilitate movement across the length and breadth of this country. Everybody has an issue about roads. And over the years, each time I've traveled across the country to gauge the mood of the country ahead of an election, you will see that roads come at the top of everybody's agenda, and it's one of the biggest things to influence the outcome of elections. And so this government came into power, and then they told us about the big push. Remember, the previous government had their own year of roads. It is a big deal. Tonight, the minister is going to be my guest. There's going to be a lot of updates we need to get from him and questions about arrears that we need to also ask him, the funding sources. The challenge with the previous roads constructions is that government starts and they get stuck along the way. And so how is government, this current government, trying to circumvent and deal with the problem? It's been almost a year and a half into the administration. It's time now to do that scorecard and measure where they are. If you look at the Ghana's annual infrastructure deficit, we're talking about $1.5 billion. So this huge deficit there that this current government needs to meet. And if you look at the big push, you talk about delivering durable, high-quality roads. That, of course, is the promise, is the ambition, but the devil is always in the detail, is it not? The big push is targeting projects in 45-plus projects across the country, a lot of them high-profile ones that are dotted across the economic corridors of this country, 32 new road projects, 13 abandoned projects they're going to be looking at. And this we'll get an update of, because the minister is going to get here and talk to us. 4 of these projects are various stages of completion. We'll get to know which of them are and where are they. But the big number is 10 billion. I remember when this was first announced by the finance minister, the big question is, where in this recovering economy are you going to find $10 billion to pump into this big push initiative? Well, they are almost a year and a half into it. How are they faring? Well, this is a point to measure that and ask those questions. And as we know, 13.9 billion of that in the 2025 budget went into specifically deal with the subject of roads. The minister will talk to us about, so where exactly have these monies gone? And over time, they're going to spread this, by the way. So 2025 was 13 billion. At 2026, it's supposed to be spending some 17 billion and 19 billion in 2027. And then in 2028, the election year, when they hope that all this would have come together, they would have spent some 21 billion at the time. It's all about the money. It's all about finding that resource to keep this going. And if you look at the funding source spread, 35% of that is mineral royalties. The government is expecting that this will come in. Of course, in the last 1.5 years, we've seen that the minerals are performing very well, particularly gold. And so if you have, for example, the sliding scale that has just been introduced, government is expecting to get a bit more because of the global high prices that we've seen of gold, for example. So that's a huge chunk of where government is hoping to get the monies from. And then the ABFA is also going to bring in a fair chunk of this. Now we've seen the global price of oil going up. That definitely will count here, right? Ghana is an oil producing country. And so once it hits above $100, yes, when it comes to the downstream filling our cars, we'll feel it in our pockets. But there is also that reverse benefit, because we will be exporting our crude and making some money that then goes into part of funding this entire big push agenda. A total capex of 32.7 billion is what government plans to spend in this particular area. And if you look at that spread over the time, the Ghana Roads Fund annual revenues coming in isn't enough. The government told us some time back that they were also going to be looking at reintroducing tolling. We need to understand tonight, where are we with the introduction of tolling? Something that they criticized the previous government for. They announced that they will do so. We'll get some clarity and an update on that for you. This big number, 5 billion, is funds for maintenance. And the key thing to note is part of our challenge in this country is that we build roads, we don't maintain them. And so they deteriorate over time, and then we have to scrape it all and redo it. But if we're maintaining it, that then becomes part of saving costs over time in the long run. So the government says they're going to put in place 5 billion to maintain. We're going to be asking that question too. Stay with me. If you have a road, everybody does have a question about a road. I do. Definitely going to be asking my question about the Adenta-Dodowa Road and an update on when that is going to be done. That Accra-Kumasi expressway, we'll get the very latest on that too for you. And I know many of you have sent me your questions to ask the minister for you. I'm going to be putting those to him. If you have any, and you're watching us on our live screen, put those questions there. I'll be harvesting a few of them and putting those to the minister who's joining me tonight on PM Express, right after this. And thanks very much for staying with us here on PM Express. It is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It's also brought to you by Pepsi and Cavity Fighter and Stanbic Bank. And as you know, if you're really looking for a tank, you need to look for the tank with the tortoise on it. That's when you know you have the right and durable tank. And then, of course, tonight before you go to bed, you need to brush your teeth. You need to think about Pepsi and Cavity Fighter. That's how to guarantee stronger and white teeth. And if you're looking for an investment that responds specifically tailor-made to your needs, call Stanbic Bank today. And my guest joining me tonight on PM Express is Govt Abuja. He is the roads minister, and he's been in Parliament today. But as you know, everybody has a question about roads. And so I'm delighted to have him join us here on PM Express. Thank you, Govt, for your time on PM Express.
Thank you very much, Evans, and I'm very glad to be here. I must say that I owe you a lot of airtime, and it's always a pleasure to share this wonderful platform that gives credible information to the public, and I'm very grateful to you.
Let's start with the big push. I think that's taken all your time.
Yeah.
Where are we with the big agenda and executing the plan?
Okay. Thank you very much, Evans. The President's big agenda about the big push is to, first of all, the phase one, is to tackle the trunk roads of our country. The trunk roads are like a spine. So the roads leading to our regional capitals and connecting the regional capitals back to the national capital. So I always call it the Western Corridor, right from, let's say, Takrady through Wenchi to Wa, and then from Tema through Hohwe all the way, Jasikan, Pasa all the way to Bintri, all the way up. And then the Central Corridor from Accra through the Kumasi all the way through Tamale, and maybe turning a bit right towards Bolga. And then the Bolga-Wa, and then the what you can call the Trans-ECOWAS Highway, Flau, all the way to Elubo. The truth is that none of those roads is in a good condition. And it is common knowledge that the Ghanaian has been very unhappy with the level of investment they hear we put in those roads, and yet the roads, either trunk roads or their corner roads, are still in very bad state. So the President's idea is to, first of all, tackle the spine, which is to address these big roads. Fortunately, all these roads are now under construction. Every segment of these roads are under construction. We have various degrees of levels of completion. Some contractors have done 50% of the work already.
Under the big push?
Yes, exactly.
50% already?
Yes, exactly.
In fact, this was just announced in 2025, basically.
Yes. One of the things we did was...
Which roads will qualify under that?
Okay, so there's a section between Atimpoku and Aflau. One or two of those contractors may actually attempt to finish their entire work by the close of this year, which is unprecedented. How are they able to do that? Some of them, as I speak to you, they are the next shift that just turned up to work.
They're working overnight?
Yes.
24/7?
Yes, so they have 3 shifts. And some of them are very ingenious. So, for instance, instead of lunch, closing, and then let people go and eat, they hire the local chop bar owners to come and cook on site. So when it's time for lunch, everybody just goes and eat, paid for by the contractor, and spend a little bit of time, then come back. When it's time for you to close, you close. Another batch comes after that, and the same way. So, and some of them have been doing this for the past 4 months, constantly working 24/7. No doubt they can finish ahead of schedule. And because we didn't give one contractor, let's say 100 kilometers, 60 kilometers, we deliberately, if you remember, we used to call the big push 12 disciples. So for instance, how do you call it? Atimpoku to Aflau was described as one project. There's 9 different lots now. So that we gave it to 9 different contractors, maybe 25, 30 kilometers each. First of all, it gives opportunity to more local contractors to participate. It generates peer pressure that my colleague is running ahead of schedule. I need to work hard as well. The quality of work my colleague is doing, other people are watching, so I need to up my game and other thing. Out of that, we are getting a better value and the speed without compromising the quality. So across the country, different contractors are working. Some of the roads you traveled in the past that you regret driving on are now good news. In fact, this evening, I just saw a post from the MP for Hohwe that STC and VIP have started going to Hohwe. In the past, they can't because the road was in such a terrible...
But that road is still under construction.
Yes, it's now under construction. Actually, you're right. It has been under construction when NDC was in power in the past time. Then it stalled. It was put under Cocoa Road. It stalled again, and until we came back. So now, from the west section will be from Have to Hohwe, and then Hohwe to Jasikan. And then when you jump all the way to Pasa, and then Oti Damanko, all those sections are now under construction. So when completed, you can drive from Tamale to Nakpanduri, first-class road on asphalt, non-stop. And that is what President Mahama is talking about. The same way from Winchi all the way to Wa should be first-class road in asphalt. From, how do you call it, Aflau, all the way to Elubo. That is what we are talking about. Let's
get to some of the specifics, because one of the things when I'm listening to Rosemary speak is I want to make sure that my road is covered.
Exactly.
So under the big push, specifically, which roads are we talking about under the big push? Do you have a list of where we are?
Yes. Okay. So when we talk about the big push, there are 54 different projects under the new big push.
Well, what is a new big push?
Okay.
Is that an old big push?
No, yes. The new big push means that they were projects which were not already under contract. We started them afresh. There's something we called old big push. These are projects we did not promise, but by the time we took over, we inherited. And not repeating what we saw in 2017 when we said, and then I start here, we didn't start it, so we abandoned it. The president's directive was never cancel or stop any project. Even if there are difficulties, let's keep working with them to address it. So for instance, I'm sure you discussed this issue about how many times demonstrations were held at Ofanko about the stalled project there.
Yeah.
So automatically we carried on that as a big push because the problem was that there was no dedicated funding for it. The Kaswa to Winneba, the same. Dodoa, Adenta, Dodoa. So those were contracts already existing, which we novated to a big push project. The total cost of that is close to 15 billion as part of the entire big push portfolio. So the new projects will be about 55 billion, and then the old project novated will be about another 14 point something billion. But they are all critical roads that needed to be done. So that's the difference.
Okay.
The 54 projects are all spread across the country. Some of them are just a break of the same project. So for instance, if you go to Tamale Ring Road, there are 3 different lots on that place. But it's just one ring road. The 3 different contractors are working on it. I mean, Monisco is there, how do you call it? China Railway number 5 is there, and Sino Hydro is there. So that is how we came by the 55 project. So sometimes, and then the entire Tamale Ring Road is less than 40 kilometers. So you can hear that they have awarded over 50 projects. Sometimes it's just because we want efficiency. It could have been one contractor. The one contractor failed, it fails everybody. But when you break it up, maybe the failure could be detected with one contractor. We can ask the next contractor to take over that lot. So that is what it is.
So how many individual contracts in total have you awarded for the execution of the big push itself?
The big push itself, yes, it will be 54 plus 23, 54.
54 separate contracts?
Yes.
And all the 54 are for 54 individual contractors?
Some contractors are doing 2, simply because of the location. Okay, so for instance, when you're between Winchi and Sola, the previous government awarded a section of Winchi and Wa. Previous government awarded a section of that road to Maripoma. The contractor, though, never started any work. When we came, we gave him, in fact, when I went around the country, I noticed that he's almost mobilizing to start. though he didn't start any work. So we thought that the level of his mobilization means that we could give him a bit more work because he was already mobilized. So we added a little bit more work to what he's already supposed to be doing. So the 54 are actually what we call the big push projects, plus the 23, which were all projects novated to Edison. Okay. The discussion about big push is that people are now beginning to see every road project that is ongoing as big push, and that is what the conversation has been. So sometimes I hear some figures and I said, where did you get it from? They say, oh, it's big push. I think it is not even worth describing because it's not as if we are saying when the project is not christened big push, it is not important. That is not what we meant. We are just saying that these ones are priority one of what we want to complete quickly, and then the rest follow. So that is what it is. So emphatically, 54 projects are the ones that qualify to be called the new big push, and then 23 are all projects novated to the big push.
Give me some of the key highlights of the 54.
Okay,
that's the new big push.
Okay.
Some of the biggest ones that covered on this.
So,
and while that, tell us where you are in terms of level of completion.
Okay, so when we go to Ahafo, the project there that we are calling big push is like the rehabilitation of Tepa Goso, which is an ongoing project which is now being novated. The contractor is far advanced. The next one is the Bediaku Junction to Camp 15. It's now a main big push. The first one is ongoing. And
those who are audiences listening to you can check this.
Yes.
Exactly. Because in the past, the ministers have told us people, the road is construction, and people go there and there's nobody on.
Yes, and I'm very happy with what you are saying because you see, we are what? I'm here with you today. If the contractor is there or not, the people living there know whether the person is there. So we actually encourage the public to actually get involved and tell us what is going on. So Ahafo again, the Bediaku Junction to Camp 15 is a main big push project. The same Ahafo, the Bediaku to Camp 15 Lot 2 is also ongoing there. Ashanti region, the design and construction of Suame interchange is an ongoing project. As you know,
have you varied it? Because that has become a controversial
subject. So this is what it is.
Let's focus on it for a second.
Good.
The Suame interchange. What has happened to it?
Okay, it's stalled because you remember we started the project. It was supposed to be a commercial loan. Then we couldn't draw down. Then we had an opportunity to take a $750 million Afri-Exim Bank loan, of which we were supposed to use part of it to start a chairman for bridge. But knowing how much we need to finish that bridge, and which we didn't have all the money was diverted to attempt to push more on Suame interchange. And I agreed to that because as of that time, if you remember, there were demonstrations against the respected leader, Honorable Chairman Mensah. So though it was a sole source, we decided let it go. But it's stalled because we were owing the contractor in excess of $23 million of work done and not paid for. Now, if you watch the way Kumasi works, the bulk of the traffic going through the central corridor, that is Kumasi, to the northern part of the country, will now have to drive to Suame roundabout currently and fight the local traffic to get out of that place. So initially, the design was to have a 3-tier, a 4-tier, to be able to redistribute the volume of traffic getting into the roundabout into a great separation. Now, but if you notice what we were doing, we could actually do the great separation, but beyond that, they get stuck because on the Mampong Road, there's no work going on there. So the traffic was still going to build up. So the right thing to do actually was to do a diversion at around Ejisu to bypass Kumasi completely if your destination is not Kumasi, to cross the road again somewhere along the Mampong Road, so that if you were to be going to Tamale, there's no need for you to come and struggle at Suame interchange. As a result, you don't need all the 4 interchanges to do it, unless it is just, in fact, I said at the time that it was just a political decision that, we build the first 4-tier interchange at Ashanti region. It has nothing to do with engineering. We were just going to spend that money. And secondly, whilst we were at that, there was a part of the area which we needed to build the fourth tier, the piers for the fourth tier to run, which was not land that we own already, which belonged to, I'm told, a shopping mall. It's like a car park. I'm told originally they agreed that, oh, we can put some columns here, we can still park around it. But later, I'm told that the lawyers wrote and said that they want over 100 million Ghana cedi as compensation, which was not part of the project. So putting all these things into consideration and taking a second look at the fact that we could completely divert 50% or so of the traffic coming from Accra from entering Kumasi at all if they were not intended to come to Kumasi by going on to the bypass, which is already an ongoing project. We probably don't need the fourth tier. We probably can reduce to 3 tier.
So that's the explanation for reducing it from 4 to 2.
Exactly. Yes.
But I'm pretty sure you know that last week your predecessor, Asensio, issued a statement on behalf of the Ashanti Caucus, and they're very clear that, quote, it will create a problem with congestion. They said it's going to be expensive but ineffective bottleneck if you reduce it from 4 to 2. Yet, quote, deeply concerning, technically unsound, and unfair to the people of Kumasi and the Ashanti region. That what you've done is just simply going to create more problems in terms of the gridlock and not solve anything. It
has nothing to do with engineering. It's pure politics. In any case, Honorable Asensio was minister when the project was abandoned. We never saw him mobilize. In fact, we never saw him mobilize the people of the good people of Ashanti region to compel government to put the investment in. I can guarantee you what we want to do would be an engineering solution that will deal with the solution. In any case, we need to do other roads linking the interchange. And thirdly, no one is taking 1 cedi out of the project. Whatever savings are made out of not building the fourth tier will be applied to let's start building the road from the interchange towards Mampong, which is a road in a very terrible condition currently.
But you admit that if you had a fourth tier, that would have completely dealt with the traffic situation, which was really the reason why the interchange was first.
Yes. So we are doing traffic count. We're not just doing it because as of the time they were doing the 4, there was no bypass around Kumasi. So the bypass takes away the bulk of the big trucks that are still driving towards the interchange currently, though they were not meant to be coming to Kumasi. So unless, of course, the same person who is opposed to everything that government does, is opposed to Accra-Kumasi expressway, is opposed to everything. And he's been rallying people around, some people, of course, I watch social media. He's also received a good beating in terms of rebuke from people who thought that what he was doing was pure politics because they say, okay, yeah, we couldn't do it, NDC shouldn't do it. But the point is that we don't do it because of him. We are deploying an engineering solution that will address the situation. The people of Kumasi know that they are even better off having a 2-tier built and completed rather than having nothing, which is what they got under the MP.
Is it fair to conclude that a significant reason why this is not being done with the 4-tier original conception is because you don't have money to do 4-tier, you have money to do 2?
No, the cost of the bypass is almost more expensive than the how do you call it,
therefore, to do the entire
exactly. So that should tell you that is not the reason. So currently, we are spending almost $200 million extra to build the bypass. If it was just about fanfare or politics, we could have even ignored the building of the bypass and then just go and finish the Suame interchange. That is why I'm saying that this is not politics, it's engineering. I don't know which engineer he spoke to.
So to be clear, the reason why you're doing 2 tiers, you have the bypass.
No, we are not doing 2 tiers. Which are actually 3 levels.
So 3-tier?
Well, you see, people call it 2-tiered. There's going to be the ground level, which we already have, and 2 levels.
Above that. So that's 2 above the ground level.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. The reason why you're doing that is, as you've explained, just want to make sure that I understand the people of Kumasi obviously are interested in this, is because you're having a bypass so that if you are going, say, to Bono, you don't have to go through Ashanti region.
Yeah, you go through, of course, Ejusi is still in Ashanti region.
Okay.
But you don't have to go through
Suame.
Suame.
Central.
Exactly.
So you then use the bypass.
Exactly.
And then you free the Suame for those who live within
exactly
the inner city.
Yes, because you see, why do we do a road dual carriage and we do some single carriages? It's because of the traffic count. So we know that, okay, the volume of cars on this road, we need to make it dual carriage, otherwise the cars will be stuck. So if the same matrix tells you that majority of the people going here, where they actually want to go is the other side, you provide a diversion for them. They do not have to enter the same place. So even if we have to complete the 4-tier Suame interchange, it wouldn't have solved the problem because there will still have been bottleneck right after the interchange. All the roads leading outside of that place were still in a very terrible state, including the Mampong Road.
The big push, how much are you budgeting to spend in total 2025, 2026 by the end of this year?
Okay, so the finance minister allocated 13-point-something billion last year. This year he's allocating 30 billion, making it over 40 billion by the close of this year. We have over 70 billion cedis worth of project, which is about 55 billion cedis worth of project under the new big push, and the other project we took on for our existing project we took on. We are expecting that the level of activity we see on site, we should be pushing to draw down the bulk of that, because I earlier said that some contractors may actually attempt to finish their lot this year. When they finish, you have to pay them. So the idea is to have enough money. Evans, one of the difficulties in the industry prior to President Mahama coming into office was the lack of confidence. So banks don't want to hear road contractors because they were just those people who came to the bank, took money, did work, and they never brought the money back, and it was bad debt on their books. You'll be surprised to know that today, banks are chasing road contractors. Let me help you. And I must single out GCB for commendation. They have supported the Ghanaian road contractor extensively, to the extent that when we decided that under the big push, we were not going to give mobilization. And later we said, okay, some of them were, oh, if you don't give mobilization, we will not, the work will slow down. Some actually took the risk, went to commercial bank, GCB, like it, and took loans. So when we even decided that, okay, we'll pay mobilization, some said we don't need it. We have gotten money from our bank. Don't forget that the interest rate at the banks are better than it used to be. So they can take money, go and work, raise certificate, and be paid. And that is what it is. So the 40 billion plus is available. And I can tell you that
40 billion for end of 2026? 40
billion from 2025 and 2026. You remember the talk that the 13 billion, have we used it or not?
Did you use it?
No, because we couldn't. In fact, the first certificate, big certificate on Big Push started coming in towards the end of last year. Okay. And we've been paying them. And this week, every Big Push contractor who raised work certificate will be paid fully this week.
So what you're saying is you currently have 43 billion at least.
Yes.
13 plus 30.
Yes.
Sitting there, waiting to receive certificates to pay.
Exactly.
And if all things goes according to plan, you plan to spend that this year.
This year.
Can you spend all 43 billion in 2026?
It all depends on how much work contractors can do. And that is why I kept encouraging contractors, go to site, work, and bring your certificate. So as the president said, where we are now, if you raise a Big Push certificate, work certificate, we guarantee to pay you in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Those who are currently working, so some actually are, I think maximum rate of completion is 50%.
Yes, the maximum I've seen so far is 50%.
Up to 50%?
Yes.
Okay. Have you paid them? Have they raised certificates? If they bring it today,
yes, those are some of them that we are paying this week. In fact,
by the,
total of that is not even 3 billion.
So the certificate you have, its value right now?
Yes, it's just about 3 billion.
3 billion?
For works, yes.
For works done so far?
Yes.
And you're paying them by the end of this week?
Yes. Everybody, to the last penny.
But why 3 billion, considering that your budget is 43 billion for 2025, that's a drop in the ocean.
Yes, okay. So the way it works is that contractors need road construction, you need to mobilize. So somebody gets a project of, let's say, 1 billion or 2 billion. A chunk of that, he must put together heavy equipment. Excavator is $250,000. A dozer maybe around the same. Tipper truck, $80,000. You need 15 or 20 tipper trucks and other thing. Putting all those things together, you cannot just come and write a bill and tell me I bought 50 tipper trucks, give me back the money. It's not part of what I'm supposed to pay you for. You need to begin to show what you are doing on site. So yes, they might have put some money forward in terms of investment in plant and equipment and setting up. But that has passed. This is the time to actually show what those equipment are doing, and we begin to pay you for those things. So you might see only 3 billion being paid now, but in 6 months' time, you might be faced with 10 billion because they are now fully mobilized. They are working double shift, 3 shift, and pushing really hard. We might be able to. By the end of the year, I will not be surprised that we might have certificate worth 10 to 15 billion to pay.
Let's talk about arrears. What is the state of arrears as we speak in the sector now? Okay.
It's also something that my colleagues on the other side spoke about. The arrears at the time of transition was quite scary. Cocoa Board, Road Fund, and Government of Ghana debt all put together plus interest was in the region of 40 billion. It is something that makes the industry too much of high risk because everybody's, when are you going to pay this? And I still dream about clearing this within my tenure. So the president directed that, as I said, whilst in 2017, there was a policy that suspend project, let's investigate, and we pay. In fact, I attribute the collapse of the Cocoa Road project based on that singular decision because the biggest victims of that decision was Cocoa Road because it went in that they were investigating Cocoa Road, and by the time they finished, the road deteriorated beyond, and they now need to award them 3-4 times the cost. So what we are doing now is to try as much as possible to retire the indebtedness to contractors, the arrears. As of last week, government has paid in excess of 11 billion cedis.
Out of the 40 you inherited?
Yes, which is the biggest ever payment at a particular time to road contractors in our history.
11 billion cedis.
11 billion cedis.
From 40 you inherited.
Exactly.
40 billion you inherited.
Exactly. And each and every one of those projects were projects awarded by the previous government. That is the difference between President Mahama and others. Somebody would have said, why are you spending this money? We didn't award it. Wait and pay the money to the contractors you awarded. But he's been a president before. He knows that. He never helped us. The road awarded by the previous government to my village is not about them. It's about the country. So we should all grow out of that. So he said, pay everybody. So 11 billion has been paid so far. It means that we still owe a lot. At least we still owe
you owe at least 39 billion if you're using your 40 billion.
Exactly. Inherited. But don't forget that at the close of 2024, we're not paying anything much about that. It was still there, growing. But this is the time we made the biggest dent on our arrears. So that is the status of the arrears now. So
when do you hope to pay the remainder of what you owe?
As much as we can raise revenue and Parliament, when we are doing the sharing of the revenue versus, expenditure, they give us, we'll continue to pay that. But I'm happy that the finance minister the president through the finance minister have paid 11 billion. It is remarkable. And for instance, Road Fund, we still have another almost 1.9 billion in available to pay by end of next month, which is our last year allocation, which is very fantastic because don't forget, majority of the Road Fund contractors are the ones who do the maintenance work really. I saw you in your introduction, you talked about maintenance, which is something that have eluded us. We want to go back and do a lot more of maintenance works, which is actually what retains and the longevity of the road. We actually spend a lot of money to build. So that is the status of the...
I mean, these arrears, have you audited them?
Yes, we audited them. We never paid a penny without auditing them.
So the 40 billion is what you accept the government...
No, we haven't even finished auditing all of them. So they started auditing from a certain period, and as and when they are ready. So you notice that the special audit across all the sectors, including road ministry. If you read the special audit, there were talks about some certificate being paid twice and other things. Yes. How they happen, I can see how they easily happen. So for instance, a contractor's original project was to be funded by Road Fund. But Road Fund was not paying for, let's say, 8 months. He said that GOG-funded projects were paying. So he finds a way of telling somebody at the agency, can you transfer or change the source of fund for my project from road fund to GOG? Then they transfer it. But that certificate somehow remains in the files of road fund. So whilst that certificate was actually cleared at GOG, unpatriotic people can still get those certificates at road fund paid. So there has to be a synergy. So from now, we are saying that when your project is awarded and the source of fund is road fund, you have no chance of transferring or changing the source of fund so that it remains there. Rather, let's find money and come and pay the arrears at road fund as well, instead of this crisscrossing, which is what I suspect to be the
but biggest... But then what that confirms is that if that indeed happened, it's not because of fraudulent intent. It's simply somebody wanting to be paid and just moving it. But the suggestion in the audit report was that this was done with fraudulent intent, which is what the MPP had criticized.
Okay, this is a public platform. I have seen things that suggest to me that people knew exactly what they were doing, because I know contractors who came and said they were owed money, and they said, go and bring additional information about your certificate. Some went and never came back. Some went and came back for us to realize that it's been paid already. I know a contractor also who was approached that we owe you almost 500 million. And he said, no, you don't owe me 500 million. May God bless the soul of that contractor. You don't owe me 500 million. You paid me 200 million of that already. All you owe me is about 300 million. They said, oh, no, this is the documentation. He said, no, get out. You don't owe me so and so. And then he came to tell us this is what has happened. And in fact, the president knows that contractor and commended him highly for that. So I cannot tell you that the reason for the double payment and everything is a mere clerical error or this. Maybe majority of them could be, but once people knew this opportunity existed, don't underestimate the fact that unscrupulous or unpatriotic people may try to profit out of it.
The contractors who you owe the huge chunk of north of 30 billion, are some of them part of the Big Push implementation?
Almost all of them.
Are there?
Yes.
So you owe them that much. How are they getting money to mobilize, to execute Big Push?
Okay, so...
because if no bank will give you money if you borrowed and government is owing you huge amounts of money. How are they able to execute this Big Push?
Businessmen and financiers know how to de-risk projects. So they know government never dies. Government owes, and the government have already shown commitment to retiring the arrears by paying 10, 15, 11 billion. It means that this government wants to pay the arrears. So that same government gave this contractor that owes us 500 million and has given him another project for 1 billion. You'll be surprised that it is the bank that started calling them that I want to support you to do your new project. Because when you do the new project, we are more likely to get the 500 million you owe us, we are more likely to get that money paid. So the banks are taking a decision to help the contractor go and bring value to come and retire the indebtedness to them. So it's a way of de-risking the process. So it's not difficult for the banks and the contractors to work out at all. In any case, there's equipment suppliers also who only have business when things like this happen. I'm saying Big Push is not only, about roads. The last time I checked, the cost of bitumen on Big Push alone will be about 7 billion Ghana cedi. Imagine the company that supply bitumen. The cost of insurance on Big Push could be in excess of 1 billion, depending on the distance. So it is monies going into insurance. The cost of aggregate, the cost of equipment could be almost $2 billion because every contractor needs new set of very powerful equipment. Could be 2 billion. So the supply chain in terms of equipment, fuel, materials, labor is a big boost to the economy. That is why I said I was excited when I was coming here, and the Hoho MP told me there's something exciting happening. VIP and other things have started applying Hoho simply because the roads are better. That is a new job. That is VIP or STC having to, okay, let's buy up 2 more buses for the Hoho route. That is few more people getting job. That is the station manager and, how do you call it, watchman at the Hoho station getting job. That is that lady who sells wache having to expand and know that every day when I sell wache here, there will be passengers buying. So Big Push is not about road. It's about creating an avenue to put activity back into the economy so that everything grows together. And that is how President Mahama said.
Let's talk about funding. Currently, the source of funding for Big Push, I believe, is mineral royalties and ABFA.
Yes.
Both of them heavily dependent on commodity prices. And we know the volatility when it comes to commodity prices. Biggest challenge we've had in the road sector is our ability to start projects and not finish because funding sources dried up.
Exactly.
I see you setting yourself up for that same problem, considering the sourcing that you take for funding. Now, how convince me that this approach and model is different from what we've practiced over many decades and have failed us and left us with many uncompleted road projects across the country?
Yes, there's something I like about the finance minister, and I keep asking him every day. He's a good friend. I keep asking him, how did you do this? Because we met people both here and abroad, including the IMF. He appeared to defy logic in terms of what is doable. One example is, you know, when we entered the IMF program, the repayment structure was such that we actually start the big repayment from January 2025. Has anybody asked the question, how is this guy able to pay on time, sometimes ahead of schedule? All these big payments, 800 million, 1 billion, he continues paying because of prudence. So we are able to do many of these things because we cut out waste. Things that are not necessary, we cut it out and save the money to do the things we are doing. I get your point clearly that, of course, when your calculation is based on gold price, oil and other things, oil can work in both ways. Oil price can go up, meaning that when you consume more, you have to buy more than you produce and other things. But it's also about efficiency. So yes, that is part of the reason you saw everybody, the average length of a road project is 36 months. We deliberately made the Big Push project 24 months.
Why?
Simply because we want to be able to start and finish within a period we can control in terms of prices of the things we are relying on, gold and other.
But what is your fallback plan as we now begin to see gold prices are beginning to fall?
Yeah.
Yes, oil prices are climbing because of what is happening in the Middle East. What is your fallback plan when the commodity prices collapse?
Well, it is
because they invariably always do after high.
Oh, yes. There's nothing in the world.
So what is the fallback plan?
Well, that would be a question for the finance minister, but it gives the assurance that we are capable of funding what we have on site now. Rather, the risk will be, whilst we have this project on site, which are going well, and I commend the contractors who are putting the best, and we are beginning to pay them, to binge on adding more projects now. So whilst the temptation is there for everybody to ask, start my road, we are cautious not to begin to see that, as you caution, that things are okay. So you have 70-something billion on site, add a bit more. I think that will be the biggest risk. The risk, I don't see much about funding what we have now. What we have now, God willing, we shall be able to fund this to a logical conclusion. And Evans, if we even finish this phase 1 of the Big Push, you and I will see a marked transformation on the road network of our country.
Talking about funding, because we don't have limitless pockets as a country, the question of value for money comes into play. Now, I'm now going to isolate it and focus a bit more on the Fourth Estate expose, which really is a question of value for money.
Yes.
Why is it that out of 107 contracts, as was given to the Fourth Estate, they tell us that as many as 81 were sole sourced?
Okay. Well, I completely agree, and as I said to you, that civil society, ordinary people, everybody should demand accountability and demand knowledge about things that are happening. Fourth Estate did not start this on the premise of accountability. They started this as a mischief, as far as I'm concerned.
Why do you say that?
Okay. They put out information suggesting that they are aware of a scandal. If it was only about, oh, okay, you have awarded this, show us how you do it, or what is going on, how you awarded it. It could have been a normal thing. That is why when they requested information about the project, we gave it to them willingly. They took that information and pretended that they had a scoop of wrongdoing. And for 3 weeks, they used my picture and the picture of the president, giving the impression to everybody that there was fraud. That is gutter journalism.
But they didn't say fraud.
No, they said scandal, and then they used surrogates who started insinuating that scandal, via Pike, is this going to be the first scandal? When they can't prove that now, they now pretend to be doing what everybody is already doing. Oh, what about this? What about the what do you call it? The cost of this and other things. And even anytime I read what they are saying, I don't see any genuineness. Is that what they were trying to do is mischief.
But they wrote to you for information.
Yes, and we supplied that information.
And you supplied information.
Yes.
The work that they've put out is purely based on the information you gave them.
Did you hear them say that we have this information, we are just going to talk about this? They said that based on the information they have, they and their surrogate, there could be scandal. So they gave the impression that what they have found is not about sole sourcing, it's about scandal.
But I'm just looking at the evidence what has been published. I don't see anywhere in what they published that they use scandal.
Of course, they ran away from the use of scandal. When they went through, they can't find any scandal. Then they make it look like sole sourcing. But the same Fourth Estate, from 2017 to 2024, almost 99% of the project done by the MPP were also sourced. Where was Fourth Estate? Were they not aware? Why did they only wake up this year to know that sole sourcing was a problem?
I mean, but again, to be fair to Fourth Estate, the big push is unique.
Yes.
Nobody, at least within the short period of a maximum of what, 4 years?
Yes.
Is planning and estimating to spend the amount of money you're planning to spend there.
Yes.
So it is fair for any media house.
So is it the case that
I can vouch for them? Very professional guys there will definitely look into this and ask the right question.
You are from the fraternity, so I don't have any problem if you vouch for them. I'm saying that the intention on this occasion of Fourth Estate was mischief. Otherwise, you know what they would have done? They would have said, look, anybody who is attributing wrongdoing to this should back off. That is not our intention. But we know they were speaking to people. They were speaking to people, including the opposition, to take up the fight because they couldn't find the mischief in this. But you know, even that is not the problem.
So the scandal you mentioned is not they who articulated, it's people who were interpreting the work they're about to publish.
Go and check his posts on Facebook.
But when you say here, so who do you mean?
Somebody called Suleiman, I don't know him. In fact, I don't know anybody personally at this, except Manasseh that I know as a person. I don't know anybody. So it's not like they have actually done anything to me. I'm saying that their conduct on this occasion was mischief.
You know, I saw the Fourth Estate build-up. I didn't see, I simply were sort of alerting you to something they're about to publish. Yes, they use your picture. I saw that. Yes,
that is not a problem. I mean, I'm a public official. So using my picture is not a problem. But I'm saying that,
and people would have taken it.
You would have been the only person who didn't see that. What they were trying to say was that we have uncovered a big.
So you see the point about what they were trying to say versus what they actually said. There's a difference there.
Evans, if I were to publish that I suspect there's an armed robber or a serial killer who is one of the hosts, or there could be one of the hosts of a program on Joy, who is a serial killer. Do you know that friends of yours could be, without asking you, they will look at you like, could Evans be the one? So you don't even give that suspicion. We are okay discussing how the projects were awarded. That is why we gave them the information willingly, because they are entitled to it. Today, Everything about Big Push we publish even on the ministry's website. There's nothing, there's no identity of a contractor, the contract sum, which is a secret. In any case, when you go to a construction site, the board shows the contract data, except the cost of the project. So some of the things they did, for instance, they said, I heard them talking about 100 and something. Look, Evans.
With 107 road contracts.
I don't know what the.
But do you give them 107 contracts?
They had data. That data did not come from my hand. It came from an agency. But I know they gave them.
Under you.
Yes,
under
exactly.
Yes.
You see, the road ministry, like I explained to people about certificates. As of yesterday, the amount of money we owe could be X amount of money. By the close of today, it will be X plus something else. The same way it can reduce. The core issue was, in my view, they wanted to attack the government flagship project. And they've done it before on other things. So Big Push is a major government flagship project. So they attack it, insinuating other things, and put out figures. Now that I'm here telling you, because it was about Big Push, it was later that they started rationalizing by adding other projects. In fact, the last post I saw, the Big Push is not even coming that much in the write-up. But they are smart writers. They want to say that we are right. And you know, I know that people who are professionals, including myself, if I'm an architect, we don't like to be told I got it wrong. Because we want to prove to people that we got it right. Today, I'm telling you, the total number of project called Big Push is the 54 plus 23. Is that the 100-something project he's talking about under Big Push?
So I want us to now address the facts specifically.
Okay.
They've put out a few things.
Yes.
One is they wrote to the ministry
Yes.
and asked for contracts around Big Push.
Yes.
They were giving 107 contracts.
That is what they said they were giving 107.
Yes. And out of which the 81 of them were awarded on a single source, sole source basis. Is this factual or is it not?
You see, they asked a question and answered it themselves wrongly. Now they are trying to rationalize by asking a different question to deserve a different answer. Somebody else should be asking the question. It was about Big Push. Now that they have realized that, we don't have 100-something Big Push projects. They are now saying 100-something road projects. Their main point originally was 100-something Big Push projects. And I'm saying to you that we only have 54 new Big Push projects and 23 existing projects. Does that add up to 100-something? If it was just a genuine concern, they are Ghanaians, they can demand that. Anybody can call on us to demand that. It would have been easy. In fact, they actually tried to have an interview with me, not because they wanted somebody, they said they were publishing, somebody asked, but is the minister even aware of what you want to say? They said no. So they sent me through somebody some questionnaires, which I answered willingly. They now quoted me and other things, all sorts of things. So I'm saying that we are focused. Yes, we have awarded, and I'm the one who said it, we have awarded some projects through sole sourcing. Is that the crime? Okay,
so let's clarify.
Yes.
So the 107 contracts that we're giving may include Big Push, but it definitely incorporates all contracts that the ministry has awarded.
You said they said 106.
107.
Okay.
107
I have, let me just tell you exactly what I have. Maybe it may not be that much different. So I have a total here, 139 actually, not 10.
And what are these? 139, what are these?
So
are these road contracts?
Yes, so Big Push ongoing projects, 23. Consolidated project, that is the project that comes out of our normal capex, 62. And then main Big Push project, a total of 54, making it 133. So even there 106, that is what I'm saying, that I don't know how they worked it out. If you take this and you take the existing project, because they lumped it up and pretend that all this were even projects which we awarded project contract. And I saw them talking about that the project they saw, all of them were signed by me.
At least the 107 they were giving.
Yeah, they were signed by me.
By you.
Look, Evans, this year alone, we advertised over 400 projects for maintenance works and other things, fully procured through open competitive tendering. That didn't even feature here. And then they struck their difference, and we're talking about some 76 or 74% sole sourcing. For what I've told you now, it's about 43 point something. I just wrapped it at 44%. Okay,
so let me clarify this because this is important. But you can see that it's basically what they were giving, that they were using, that they were working.
But when you had...
So they were given 107.
Yes, when you had a situation where almost 100% of projects were sole sourced, to a regime that came and has reduced that to only 44%. Aren't you supposed to be using this one as a test case of it means we can do better instead of trying to scandalize them? That is the point I'm making.
In Parliament today, you talked about 400 contracts.
Yes.
How is that different from the 136, I believe, that you mentioned?
So we have different categories of, those are also projects, but their values are smaller. Their values are smaller. And don't forget, one of the things I said why we did the sole sourcing was the speed at which we needed to do some of these things, the trunk roads. Some of the maintenance work. So, okay, we know this year we are going to do maintenance works. We are going to do pothole patching. We are going to do regraveling and other things. There's nothing emergency about it. So we can take time and open tender and procure them. But when you have a situation where Adenta Dodowa has been abandoned, the road is eroding, that is an emergency you need to do. So we gave reasons why we did sole sourcing for some of these projects. And I'm saying that in recent history of our country, no government have instituted a major road project and taken it through this level of rigorous procurement process. Evans, I give you an example. The road toll, you know that it received general acceptance that bring it back. I keep getting comment from people, including very good comment from my colleagues from the other side. We've given you our support to bring the road toll. Why are you not bringing it back? Because for more than a year, we've been trying to procure a concessionaire through an open tender process.
So that's why that has, because that was one of my questions.
Exactly.
Because you promised you're going to bring it back.
Exactly.
It's still not back.
It's not because
you're going to the procurement
Exactly.
process. It's open competitive tender.
Exactly. And the difficulty about that process is that, I know it's law. When you even get to a point and somebody, a bidder, decide that I'm not satisfied with something, I need extra time, by law, depending on what it is, you are supposed to stop the process, provide that information to him or her, and allow 2 weeks or whatever time the law says for him to go and consume it and bring it back. And that is what we've been doing back and forth, back and forth.
So knowing what you know now, when do you now hope that the tolls will come back?
I am sure by within a week we should be able to come to a conclusion, because we've gone through this over a year and it's good. We've gone through it, but this one it was cancelled. Nobody is dying for us not bringing it, but the roads are in a very terrible situation. So we can afford the time to deal with this one.
So you are setting that this year tolls will return? Sure.
We should deploy the first few tolling points across the country before the end of the year.
Okay. Yeah. And this will be on all roads or particular roads? No. Which types of roads are you hoping
for? First of all, the principle is that it's only roads that we have improved. So we are not going to put that on rough roads littered with potholes and other things. So for instance, when we finish, Winchi to Wa, surely that will be told. When we finish the interchanges, that will be told, because we made the investment. When we finish Accra-Kumasi, when we finish the bypasses on Accra-Kumasi, which is another matter, which we don't have enough time, which will be captured in the 2027 budget with the allocation so that we can complete them, because the cost to complete is about 6 billion. So we only toll roads that we have improved. It is fair, and then there are different ways of tolling. For instance, Accra, we have taxis, and we have private cars, we have ambulances. You can't tell a taxi driver that anytime you go through a gantry, you pay, because that is his job. So we probably have to have a regime where there's a one-off payment for 24 hours, things like that. So all will be discussed and understood by everybody before we roll out.
Return to the value for money question.
Yes.
In Parliament today, you said 44% of the 400 contracts that you've awarded by the ministry came under the sole source umbrella. How do you reconcile that with the position that has been expressed by your government and the president? President, for example, I recall in the 2025 National Economic Dialogue said, quote, single source procurement must be a rare exception rather than the norm. 44% doesn't sound like the rare exception.
Okay. No, it's actually rare. If you take 100% of sole sourcing and 44, is that not rare?
You're actually thinking about 10% will be rare exception.
that is to you.
Because this is almost half.
Okay.
It's almost half
but
of the contracts awarded.
Can you remember a regime?
Source.
Can you remember a period of our lifetime that we achieved even 44% of sole sourcing? It has never happened. So this is rare. But you made a comment about, no, I didn't say 400 plus these things. The 400 were competitively bidded, so there's no question about it. This is about the 139 projects.
Okay.
139 projects. So we struck the average on the 139.
Okay. I read that because it says here we have also awarded 400 contracts to open competitive.
Yes, so that one, once it's open competitive, it doesn't come in.
It's important to know that only 44% of all major contracts, including big push contracts awarded by the ministry and the president, were procured through sole source. So that's the client.
Yes.
And that particularly, the 44% calculated based on 139 contracts. Yes. Okay. So 44%, back to the question, how do you reconcile that with the president's stated objective?
Yes, the president stated, almost all of us, including yourself, stated. And I think we have never moved away from that position. The president, the most famous one that, how do you call it, fourth state I've been playing was when the president was giving an analogy that he knows of a company that wanted to procure, cages to do something. And somebody went and brought the cages from somewhere and gave it to somebody to supply. And to him, when we come to government, if this is the guy who will supply the thing, we'll let everybody, because it's a local thing, we'll let everybody participate. And we also spoke about sole sourcing being a bane of the country those days for specific reasons. I was the ranking member. I remember very well when the Accra-Cape Coast was awarded to Motor Angels for $570 million. I queried that contract because it was supposed to be, how do you call it, a PPP contract. Motor Angels failed to raise the money. Yet, at the dawn of the 2024 election and other thing, they quickly put the contract together and awarded it to them. And I pushed back hardly. The records are there that this is not right. The content of the contract and everything doesn't work well. If we're going to use GOG money to pay for it, then let us give it to a Ghanaian contractor. That is how Maripoma became the contractor on Accra-Cape Motorway contract. And I'm proud that a Ghanaian is doing it. We also spoke about some of the contents of some of the contract because then, when they say sole source, Evans, even the design, we pay for it, the contractor pay for it. So contractors go and do their design, costing and bring it to the government, and we own it. How do we risk that currently? Today, under the big push, no contractor is allowed to do their own design and bring us anything, except 3 projects. Dambai Bridge, Echiamanfo, and a section of Takoradi, Cape Coast, because of the complexity. So we have actually saved almost 5% of the cost already because we are doing our own design. Today, we also spoke about some of the contracts because, Evans, some of those contracts we're talking about those days had line items in it. When I tell you that we give contract and if actually pay $3,000 to buy a mobile phone for a contractor, pay $10,000 for the person to use the phone. When the person travels outside of the country, we pay for the holiday. Some of the people who are Ghanaians who are working here, we put money in the contract to say that we will rent another house for you to stay in to work here. Meanwhile, the person lives in Accra. We thought those were the abuses. So when we said those things, we still mean the same thing today. How are we addressing it? There is no contract today that will put those clauses in and say that we'll buy a mobile phone, we'll give you money for this thing. So we are not talking about we are not changing in our ways.
So the view then was sole sourcing of contracts exposes us to corruption risk and potentially lack of value for money.
Lack of value for money more than this thing because...
Potentially, because of this corruption, because somebody then can give to us, is somebody he likes.
No, because as of that time,
it's inbuilt in sole sourcing.
We don't have. I don't have any evidence that anybody.
But the value for money question was paramount to the government and to the president when he was making that.
Because
point.
Value for money is not only about how much things cost. It's about the value. Okay, the cost of things can be different from the value. There was also another point that we paid 10 million for this road, and it failed in 6 months.
Yeah.
So we didn't get value for money.
Yeah,
so we're talking about a range of things.
Yeah,
and we have never changed from that.
So if you come back then using that rationale behind the conviction of the NDC and the government, the 44% of the 136, how do you guarantee that those deliver value for money? Excellent
question, Evans. First of all, I've told you that the process is already clearer. No contractor gave us their own rate. No contractor is allowed to go and give us whatever rate they want. No, in the past, we pay consultants who supervise the contractors through the contractor. So I give you work, and then our colleague standing there is the consultant. We now say that you will pay him through you. How is he supposed to actually exercise any control over you? So that is one avenue we found out to be a way of actually not giving value. So from now, we separated it. Every consultant gets their separate contract and are not paid through the certificate of the contractor. That is another way of doing it. How do we ensure that things are done differently? Apart from the processes we've gone through now, which ensures that the figures that we have given to the contractors as the contract sum is fit for purpose. Also, when you work, we measure. We only pay you for work you have done. No one is going to write you a check based on a contract price. And we encourage everybody, the contract around it. That is why we publish the contract on our website. In fact, it is not only the quantity surveyors at the Ministry of Road and Highways that went to school to learn quantity surveying. So if you are a quantity surveyor in an area that the contractor is working, you know the price of that contract, you see what they are doing, you can challenge them. Because I'm also not a quantity surveyor, so I wouldn't take it from them. But in fact, Evans, people have written anonymous letters to me talking about things. I've taken some of them on, and actually, I found those comments very helpful. That is the whole point. I said that all this exercise by the fourth estate, I welcome it. If it wasn't laced with that poison of we have discovered or we might be discovering, how do you call it, scandal, I would have said that I would have been the one using them to say that follow this one, this one. But the way they've done it, the thing is laced with malice. So I don't even know whether anything they say now is with any good intention. I'm not saying fourth estate have never done anything. I'm saying on this occasion, their intentions were malicious, not intended to solve any problem.
Two quick questions on this before we can move on to my pet subject or some of the key roads. The issue around the sole sourcing.
Yes.
If you look at the law, it says the circumstances around which you can do this. Only one supplier is available or has exclusive rights with no reason.
That's one of them, and that's Section 40, one of them.
Urgent unforeseen situations where competitive tendering is impractical. Used during catastrophic events where immediate procurement then becomes an issue. Which of these justify the 44%?
Okay, so this is where he got it mixed up. So, for instance, Dodoa, Ofanko, we didn't need to do any VFM on that project. It's an ongoing project. And even the World Bank system agrees that if the project is ongoing, if stopping it will create a longer period of procurement and that you can go on with that. Though the Ofanko project was also sole sourced. We decided to leave it like that. We used much of what is an emergency. Evans, can anybody tell me that there's any of this road that I mentioned that they would have preferred we do a 1-year procurement process because we spend about 6-7 months doing studies, design, and costing. Can anybody show me which of this road that he thought that it's not an emergency? We could have gone through full competitive.
So the justification is the way emergency.
Emergency. That is why they are trunk roads. So we are not awarding what do you call it? This sole source project on all the big push project. Some we actually went through restricted tendering. That is the point. So
emergency for the 44 that you used for sole sourcing.
Exactly.
The justification that led you to sole source was because of emergency.
Yes.
Somebody said, but roads, what is emergency about roads?
Okay. So if you live in an area in Bono, where you get, anytime you ply a road, you get armed robbers attack people and even kill policemen and other things simply because the road is terrible. The drivers cannot drive any fast. If you are a yam farmer in Yendi and you need to bring your yam to, what do you call it, Tama Market, and it takes you 2 days, and your car have to break down around Pasa because the road is terrible. And they tell you that, oh, this is because we are going through tender. We haven't finished. So you think it will make sense to that farmer that for now, your yam can be getting rotten. If you were on the road between Gini and Sampa, where we have one of the highest cashew production in our country, and I drove on that road and saw stacks of cashew by the roadside, Evans, no driver want to go there. And we say that it's an emergency, let's fix it, because that is the way to give value to that farmer, to make sure that that cashew gets to the market, exported for the state to get some money to build more roads. For me, there cannot be anything more emergent than this, to make sure that the farmer gets value for his money. And don't forget, one of the reasons Ghana Statistical Service quoted as a reason for food price inflation in the past was transportation. So transportation, bad transportation, significantly affects you and I. It actually reflects on the food on our table. So if we fix it, we are fixing more than a road problem. We are fixing a major economic problem. So we would deliver. Evans, we are not against. In fact, I still want to work with 4 states. I don't have any problem with them. I just felt that knowing who I am not opposed to anybody. In fact, the fact that you're opposed to me doesn't mean that you don't like me. You genuinely want to help me. There are people who have said all sorts of things about us, and we still work together. I'm not opposed. I said I've never met Suleiman. He hasn't done anything to me. But I thought what he did, there were better ways to do it. And guess what? Big Push project are not finished. We can still collaborate and work together to make sure that we deliver Big Push in a better form to Ghanaians. Because the money we are using for Big Push is not my money.
Are we going to see value for money audits done on the contracts you've awarded so far? Because obviously, Atufo saying you have passed a law right now to set up value for money office. Value for money is a big deal for the government. You are resetting. Have any of the contracts awarded so far been subjected to a value for money audit?
Yes, all of them.
All of them?
Yes.
All of them is subject to value for money audit, and they've been cleared?
Yes.
Even those under sole source?
Yes. So what we do is that in the contracts, and it didn't start from our government, whenever we are unable to even complete the VFM before we go to site, we say that whatever comes out of the VFM is what we would agree to pay you. And normally nobody argues about that. And out of this, I've developed a very good relationship with Ghana Institution of Surveyors, who we are trying to help to build their capacity to license more VFM consultants, because currently they do it as an institution. But they now want to license, just like the way audit service licenses auditors that audit government books, in addition to what the finance minister is trying to do centrally. So there will be different layers of value for money auditing, not only at the time of contracting, but also auditing after the project has been delivered. If that is in place, if that guy took 10 million and built a road, asphalt road particularly, and meanwhile the base was weak, and the thing fails in 6 months' time, he can be caught because of that law, because that VFM covers the life cycle of the project. So VFM is not only about how much does things cost, it's also how much is the value of things. So we are ready to work on that one.
I'm going to take a break. When I return, many of you have sent me your questions. I've sampled a few on various roads. You said I should ask him when the roads are going to be. I have my own. At Denta Dodo, I'll ask him. And then the Kumasi.
The simple answer we'll have is that we'll go through full competitive bidding.
That one, at Denta Dodo, people wouldn't let him hear that at all. When I return, I'll ask him that. I also ask him about Accra-Kumasi expressway. Where are they in that very significant project?
Yes.
And I put a few of your questions to him. Many of you have roads questions before we wrap up. I'm going to extend the time by 10 more minutes so I can cover some of your questions that are coming through various roads across the country. Stay with me. Yes, thanks for staying with us here on PMS. We're just about wrapping up, but I have a lot of you. Some of you are sending questions into us that we should ask him. There's one I'll quickly asked that. It's still on the issue about the value for money, and then we'll go to your roads. Okay. I think the roads you can tell us very quickly. But this one is about the 139 contracts.
Yes.
The question is, why didn't the ministry give all that to Fourth Estate, and they were only given 107?
No, contracts? I don't know what is in their request letter. And these projects I've asked, I listed, are from all agencies. Mm-hmm. I don't know which agencies they asked for. So it's not about, in fact, in any case, all the projects are currently on the website. So nobody needs to even write. In fact, the next time you write to information,
you point people to the
I will just tell you to go to the website. You don't need to come to us for anything.
Let's talk about some of the key routes from the questions. Accra-Kumasi expressway.
Yes.
The last time the finance minister was in the chair you are in right now, you had just begun doing feasibility. Costing was not even quite nailed on just yet. Where are we there? Okay,
so we are completing the first phase of the studies. We have surveyed about 200 kilometers now from Accra to Kumasi. That is done now. So we know the alignment and the coordinates. Mm-hmm. This week, I would write to the finance minister, the acting defense minister, to get the support of the Ghana Armed Forces to help with the determination of some of the challenges on the right of way. Don't forget, the military have an engineering, 48 engineers who are also experts in doing some of these things. So we'll collaborate with them. So we are on track. We expect to have the full detailed design somewhere in June to pave way for contracting the contractors to actually start work somewhere within.
So what is complete now is the feasibility?
Yes.
It's done complete?
Yes, yes. You see, we need to, because it's a green field, we need to now determine the alignment. Where do you want to pass? Then when you determine that, you need to apply for an executive instrument to acquire that.
But you're going to be paying compensation.
Exactly. Then you now need to determine what's there. Is somebody's cocoa farm? Is somebody's house? We are avoiding communities as much as possible because the character of this road is not to link little communities by the road. It's supposed to create uninterrupted access between Accra and Kumasi. Then we do that, and everybody who ought to be compensated will be compensated.
So what is compensated now is alignment. You know
alignment,
where
the coordinator
is going to pass. And then you're going to get the Ghana Armed Forces involved.
Yes.
Because it could be potential risks of the places they're passing, could be illegal mining, could be...
If it's illegal mining, then it's good news because when they see the military, they will run away.
Okay. Yeah. Another question, of course. Adenta Dodowa, when are you finishing?
By end of 2027. And I must,
next year?
Yes. Okay. I must commend Oswald Limited, one of our greatest contractors, doing a good job. That project stalled, but is back on site. I want to appeal to the public. Of course, there will be some restrictions to the way you drive around that place. But bear with us. By the end of 2027, you have your brand new road, asphalt, and everything.
What percentage has been done so far? Do you know?
I don't want to. Okay. I can provide that data later.
What about? I believe the Kaswa all the way to Cape Coast. Is it Cape Coast?
Yes.
Or what's that stretch called?
Yes. So
Accra-Cape Coast.
Yes. Our colleagues in the previous government started Kaswa to Winneba. That contract was ongoing before we came. As usual, we innovated it, and we have now added an interchange. Currently, we have, when you go there in the past, it would have been a roundabout. It's now an interchange, and simply because we want the traffic to flow. And then we have awarded from Winneba interchange to Mankesim currently. Okay. And we've learned lessons from Kaswa to Winneba, where everybody complained about the disruptions to traffic. So when you see what we are doing between Winneba and Mankesim now, we are not touching the existing carriageway. We are building brand new road by the side. When we finish, we switch the traffic onto that one. Then we rehabilitate the new...
Goodness me, that stretch from Kaswa to Winneba
it's terrible.
It's crazy.
Yes. But in 2-3 months, the contractor is laying a binder on most of the sections. It's not their fault. It's the way the project was put together. It's a design and build, and it's complicated, but they are a formidable contractors. And,
is it local?
They are local as well.
So you're saying that in the next 4 months, that stretch will improve?
Much of it will be open because they are doing the binders on all the stretches. It should be much of the the difficulties you have now should be taken away.
Okay, and in the entire stretch now from all the way to Mankasim, when you hope to finish?
Also by the end of
2027.
Then it will be left with Mankasim to Cape Coast.
Okay, and then a few of you who asked questions says, there are concerns here about the bituminous surface given to the Wagulu-Hantumu Road executed by P&W Ganem Limited. The people felt shortchanged. They thought, per the contract, Mahama said it will be giving asphalt overlay and not bituminous surface, which already has been executed. Can you please ask him why are some roads in the country asphalted and some are given bituminous?
Okay, so the texter is right. The original program from Wa to Bolga was supposed to be surface dressing. We call it surface dressing. And indeed, on that stretch, some contractors were already working. And he is right. Ganem, in fact, Ganem is one of our greatest contractors.
Local?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, they've been living in Wa all this while. They built some of the best roads we've had. Indeed, President Mahama directed that because it's a major east-west connection, we should change the scope to asphaltic finish. So what we are doing is that the contractors that have already got contract to do surface dressing, every engineer knows that we are helping them build the best possible base and everything and seal it. Then we can apply an overlay from end to end. So there's nothing wrong about that. We can do that. So nobody is going to be shortchanged. The contractors on that stretch have not been given a contract to do asphalt, and they are deciding to do bituminous surface. So I want to calm the
and I would like to end with Accra-Kumasi Highway, which was existing before you build you say you want to build the express. What's the update and when?
Okay, so that project was also it's also a very critical project. We need to complete what our colleagues have started. The problem was that the way it was put together, also sole source, design and build, and then it ran into trouble. The original contract price for the entire project was 1.9 billion. And the contractors got to site just to realize that that money was too small for the work. That is the reason we are doing all the studies and the design on the Accra-Kumasi expressway right now. We want to avoid what they got into. It was not as simple as just going to say, go and complete it. Indeed, one of the contractors took a gamble and completed his section. Unfortunately, where his section is, the next contractor must complete before we can get the full stretch. I asked for cost to complete, including outstanding certificate. I'm told it's in the region of 6 billion currently. 6 billion. Wow. That is a serious matter. If you add to that is why when I hear my...
6 billion?
Yes. When I hear my colleague Asenso talking, I said, look, the kind of problem, I respect everybody. He did some work. I'm building on his... I expected him to know where I sit, what he left. To help me solve the problem instead of being in the dark sniping at me every day. The problem is that if you ask his contacts at the ministry, they are talking about almost 6 billion to complete.
Do you have the money?
I don't have the money, but we want to budget for that money in 2027 budget.
How would that delay the Accra-Kumasi?
Not in any way. They are completely two different important roads to be done.
So which part, you say you don't have the money for the 6 billion, which part would that cut this?
The completion.
The completion of the entire Accra-Kumasi?
No, the completion of what they've started. The bypasses.
Oh, the bypasses. But this is still the Accra-Kumasi we are talking about, right? Yes. Okay.
The bypasses on Accra-Kumasi, which were being, they call it dualization, they call it bypass, whatever it is the completion of what they've started I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So that will affect completion then? That will affect full completion of that stretch?
Yeah, but the project has already stopped. There's no completion date attached to the project.
So do you know when the contractor will go back to site?
Some of them are ready to go if they get some money. In fact, majority of those contractors are actually big push contractors. Okay. So if they get some resources, they may go and start doing some work. So
what it is that as you speak, the Accra-Kumasi road has stalled, the highway has stalled.
It stalled even before the election.
Before the election. And you're now looking for the 6 billion.
Yes.
Completed. Okay. Aguda, thank you very much. Look, there are plenty of questions for you. There's one that just come in, Kwabenya, Brekusu, Kitasi stretch. There's so many.
Domi Kitasi.
Yeah, if I said I'm going to ask you all.
Started by our colleagues, Ashese University, everything.
Yeah.
But the contractor is back on site.
Back on site?
Yes.
Okay.
First car is back on site.
Okay, so they'll finish?
They'll finish.
When?
They all have the end of December 2027
to finish. Okay. Govt, thank you very much. I'm grateful that you spent time with me. Enjoy the rest of it.
I just want to say, I don't have anything against fourth estate. I'm happy to work with anybody, including them. I just felt strongly about the way they did that, but that is behind us. Whatever they want, we can work together for the betterment of our country. This is our country. They care about the country the same way I care about my country. So I just don't want them to feel that they care about my country more than me or the president. We care. If we don't care about the country, we wouldn't have put ourselves up to be elected to do this. We didn't get to this position to make things worse for Ghana. We genuinely want to make things better. And that is why I say that even 44% sole sourcing is an exception in terms of good behavior in our record. We can improve that as we work together.
Okay. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your evening.